So, this is Anna Madsen. I am a public theologian of the ELCA, and I'm so thrilled to lead these gathered Bible studies for this summer. My husband and I are leaving Regensburg, Germany in just a few hours, unless I decide not to, because I love this place so very much. I want to bring you down an alley that we traversed on the regular. It is where we lived at the last part of our time here. You can see the cobblestone streets. One of the reasons why we would, despite our desire to not move to Regensburg, is because whatever else you can say about cobblestone streets, they're not fantastic for people in wheelchairs. Right up here, perhaps you can see where there's a hotel. My husband and coincidentally his sister and her wife ate at that hotel. It's called Cafe Orphée, and it has, I'm here to say, the best creme brulee. And so while the entire meal was delicious, I came back here after 18 years for the creme brulee. Right around here, though, is the little alleyway where my late husband and my two children and I lived. And straight up ahead you can see the green building that juts out. This is a building called Hinter der Krieb. And I will never ever take for granted how ridiculous it was that we got to live in this ancient place. You can see here it was made or built in about the 13th century, all along here. And unfortunately, I don't think that it's open yet. Oh, I'm wrong. I'm always happy to be wrong. Let me bring you in here. Right here was the entryway to our apartment. So we would climb up these stairs. Now, unfortunately, I can't climb up anymore, but we'd climb up those stairs and all the way, traipse up all the way these 5 flights of stairs, where we lived in an ancient room that was Salzstadel. It was a storage space for the salt that would come up the Danube. But this particular place, just like the Neupfarrkirche, if you've seen that video yet, is complicated, because it was right here where I found out about the accident. My daughter was only 8 months old at the time of the accident, and we were at a conference, and I just had a feeling that something wasn't right. I hadn't heard from Bill in the previous late evening and into the morning. That was the biggest problem. And so she and I hopped on the trains, and I ran here. Poor little Elsa and our luggage juggling all along these cobblestone streets. And when I rounded the corner, we just did, there was a police car. And I came into the building. Good morning. Good morning. And when I rounded the corner, and there was the police car, and of all things, not only were there police officers there, but there was Dr. Brokenness. We called him Bebe. He was the other professor in the the Lutheran faculty at the university, and his focus was pastoral care, so it wasn't any coincidence that he was a volunteer as a chaplain for the police department. Well, it was a coincidence, and a tragic one at that, but one for which I'm eternally grateful, is that he happened to be on call the day of the accident. And so coincidence, or one can consider all sorts of different frameworks for it, the police car with Brokenness, who just happened to be on call as a chaplain that day, just happened to meet me as I just happened to come around the corner, knowing instinctively that something was wrong. And this is where Brokenness told me, your husband has been killed, and your son is schwer verletzt. And with that, my life changed, and my daughter and I hopped into the lease car to go find Carl. Good morning. So, you might have noticed that on the other side of that glass, and I hope that I can show it to you now, there was a restaurant. At that time, the restaurant was called the Vitus. Now it's something else. It's an Italian restaurant. We ate there, my husband and I, in this trip. We ate there, and I was able to tell him all of these stories again. He'd heard them, but I was able to actually show him where they took place. I'm going to show you this next little alleyway. We're going to go around to where I hope I can show you. I think I'm going the wrong way. But that's all right. I can give you another tour here of Regensburg. So in that restaurant, in the back, there's a courtyard. And so Carl, I was only 3 at the time of the accident, but certainly old enough to be able to race around and enjoy discovering all these little nooks and crannies. I have a little bit of dyslexia, so I'm very proud of myself that I said nooks and crannies instead of crooks and nannies as I want to do. So he would discover all of the nooks and the crannies. And play scrambling up and down all of the steps in the courtyard in the restaurant. I'm going to interrupt myself here to show you this place. You can see the German flag and the Bavarian flag. And right here is where Don Juan was conceived, because the emperor came and Charles V, very important to Lutheran history. Charles V came here for the Reichstages, for the governing days, and I'm not quite sure about what the appropriate way to characterize this liaison is, but one way or another, Barbara Blomberg was provided to him, or he saw her. I don't know the history as I should, but as a result of that, Don Juan was conceived here. Also, I'm actually glad that I missed the little alleyway, because there's a very important part of Lutheran history right around the corner here. And that is that it was here in Regensburg that it became clear that the Reformation was indeed going to take hold. There was a deep desire to avoid a split, and to that end there were several debates. And one of the debates, the last debate, there were 5, and the last of those 5 was held here in Regensburg, and it was held between Johannes Eck and Martin Luther's right-hand man, Philipp Melanchthon, and it became very clear at that point that there was no hope whatsoever, and that in point of fact there was indeed going to be a split. And so it was in this particular room that the debate was held, or in this particular building that the debate was held, and you can see it memorialized here. I'm going to peek around and make sure that you can see it. Nope. There we go. I'm too short. Let's see. Oh, look at that. There we are. And so, sorry about that, people. I'm going to stick with my day job. But here it says, in this house, there was a famous debate that was held between Dr. Philipp Melanchthon and Dr. Johannes Eck during the religious, during the governing days of 1541. So Regensburg actually has quite a lot of Lutheran history, and one of the things I've sort of been playing around with is organizing a tour just of Regensburg and the surrounding areas. Augsburg isn't too far at all. We'll go this way. I'm willing to defer to the truck. Now, we'll go through here. So this was, so to speak, our backyard. And he's going right into where I hope to take you. And so here is the courtyard I was mentioning. And the restaurant looks like the doors are open from the back side. Good morning. And so here you can see this wonderful little spot where we would come to eat. And then way up there, I need to make sure that you can see it, right up on the top 3 windows. Those were our apartments. That was our apartment. And there's some wonderful pictures of Carl and Elsa and me looking out the windows. And just a couple of days ago, my daughter, as I said, now 19, we're sitting right here. And it was so striking to me about how in this one place there is such a mix of joy and pain and bittersweetness, right? And this one spot holds all of them together, cradling them in just one geographic point, right? So from where I'm standing, I can see where we lived, and I can see where I found out about the tragic accident, and I can hear Carl on these little steps and these cobblestones here in this courtyard, and I can remember that my daughter, fully grown, a woman of robust integrity and delight, the two of us sharing as adult women now, memories and conversation and plans for the future. And it's another way of thinking about the now, right? There's a movie that I have not yet seen that I need to, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. And that's what this place is to me. But I think you can pick any moment in time, and on that date, many things happened, both both poignant and tragic and joyful, and we'll never know them. And the same for geographic spots. Many people have walked by and through that entryway, never knowing of both the times that Carl would scramble up the stairs and I would be anxious about him tumbling down, and loving every moment of it. But at the same time, there you can see it through the windows there, but at the same time also being the location of when I found out about the accident. So when John talks about the now, I think he means more than just this immediate moment, although that indeed is true, but rather the now is a representation that in every single moment God is active. And as my daughter and I were talking about here, time is not just a matter of different layers, one on top of the other, or memories are not just layers, one on top of the other, but rather they're sort of swirled all together. But when I say that God is active in every now, that's very different when we say God is present, because when God is present, there's a passivity to it, but that God is active. Think of our favorite, one of our famous favorite, well-known anyway, prayers before a meal. Be present at our table, Lord. But how different it would sound and be if we were to sing, be active at our table, Lord. But in point of fact, we do believe in an active God. I'm saying that just a few days before Pentecost. And so in the nows of your life, which have been the thens and are also the will be's, I offer you a word of lived experience that God is present, but that God is also active. And in that truth, I think we find some hope to live into the next now.